Hi everyone. In this video, it's going to be slightly different than some of the previous videos that you've watched. I am recording on Microsoft Teams and I'm going to share my screen with you so that you can also see my calculator. In this video, we're going to be going over section 3.1, which is called Measures of Center, and we're starting chapter 3, which is called Numerical Descriptions of Data. All right, so now I'm going to turn off my camera. I'm going to flip the screen around and let you see the PowerPoint. Let's get started. Let's see. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's look at our PowerPoint. All right, so chapter 3 is called Numerical Descriptions of Data. And section 3.1 is called Measures of Center. All right, so we have 3 measures of center when we are looking at a data set. We have what's called the mean, the median, and the mode. So the mean, the median, and the mode. We're going to talk about each one of them individually. And then we're going to do some calculations. All right, so the mean is the same thing as the arithmetic average. All right, this is where you add up all the values and then divide by the total number of values in the data set. So for example, if you had, let's say your data set is ages and you have 20, 25, 27, 24, 21. All right, so let's say that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people, ages of 5 people. All right, if you wanted to find their average age, you would just add up 20 plus 25 plus 27 plus 24 plus 21, and then divide that by 5. All right, so it's just the arithmetic average. These are our symbols. These are our symbols. Population mean, this is the Greek letter mu. All right, this is the Greek letter mu. Let's write that down. All right, so if you're talking about a population mean, we would use the symbol mu. And if you were referring to a sample mean, or the arithmetic average of the data points in your sample, you would call that X bar. That's how we pronounce that, X bar, or the sample mean. All right, you'll notice that for population parameters, let me change the color here. All right, so for population parameters, we typically are going to use Greek letters. And then for your sample statistics, we're just going to be using our normal letters from our normal alphabet. Whoops, from our regular alphabet. Try that again. Okay. So the mean is one measure of center. It can tell you sort of the average value of a data point in the sample or in the population. All right, next we have the median. You can think of this as the middle value, but very important, in order for it to be considered, in order for it to be the middle value, in order for it to really truly be the median, you have to first write all of the data values in order from smallest to largest. All right, so thinking back to our ages, let me grab those again. 20, 25, 27, 24, 21. All right, so those were our ages. In order for us to find the median, we would need to start by writing them in order from smallest to largest. So 20, 21, 24, 25, 27. And then you just slowly, one by one, cross them out. So you say, okay, take one from the left end, take one from the right end, one from the left end, one from the right end. And there's your median. 24 would be the median. Sometimes you will end up with two middle values. So let's say that we had an extra age in here. Let's say we had 20, 21, 23, 24, 25, 27. All right, so for some data sets, you'll end up having two middle values. So if we cross one from the left, one from the right, one from the left, one from the right, then you end up with two. You just find the average of the ones in the middle. So you would do 23 plus 24 over 2. That would be 23.5 would be the median. All right, and then lastly, the mode. The mode is the value that occurs most frequently in the data set. All right, you have lots of possibilities for the mode. You could have no mode. In that example that we just looked at with 20, 21, 24, 25, 27, every value only occurs one time. That means that there's no mode. There's no value that is more likely to occur than another one, or that occurs more frequently than another value. You could have one mode, right? That would be called unimodal. And you could have two modes. That would be called bimodal. Let me give you an example for each of these. For one mode, let's just continue with our age example. Let's say you might have two people that are age 21. All right, so the mode would equal 21. All right, so 21 occurs twice. That occurs the most frequently, so that's the mode. Here's what it would look like if you had two modes. So 21 occurs twice, and then 24 also occurs twice. So this one would be bimodal, and then your modes would equal 21 and 24. Okay, and then if it has more than two modes, we would call that multimodal. And again, that would be something like this. Maybe you have 21 occurs twice, 24 occurs twice, and then maybe 27 occurs twice. All right, so this would be multimodal. And your modes would be 21, 24, and 27. All right, so that's what a multimodal data set might look like. All right, let's get into some calculator stuff. All right, it says, use your calculator to find the mean, median, and mode of the following data set. Round your answer to 2 decimal places. All right, so this is a sample of some heights of students that were in my class one semester. And so you can see these are listed in no particular order. They are not in order from smallest to largest. Sorry about that sound. They are not in order from smallest to largest, but that's okay. We are going to pull up our calculator. I'm trying to see if I can like hide this. Yeah, there we go. All right, and then here's my calculator. All right, so let me get back to my right page. There we go. All right, so we're going to use our calculator to find the mean, median, and mode of this data set. All right, so here's how we're going to do this. You're going to go to your calculator. This is the TI-84 Plus CE. Maybe this is what the TI-84 Plus looks like, not CE. They have the exact same buttons. I'm going to switch to the CE just because I like the white background better. All right, so I'm going to hit the Stat button. Can you see it right there? Stat button. It is to the right from the green alpha button. So right here, I'm going to hit the Stat button. Here's the menu that comes up. It says Edit Calc Test. All right, I'm just going to select the first option, which says Edit. So I'm going to hit Enter. And here you can see I have a bunch of columns, L1, L2, List 1, List 2, List 3, List 4, and so on. If you have numbers in here, so let's say that you borrowed your calculator from someone else and they've got a bunch of stuff in here, there's a couple ways you can clear this out. Probably the easiest way is just to go to the very top. So make sure the L2 or L1, whatever the name of the column is, make sure it's highlighted, and then hit clear and then enter. All right, so again, go to the very top of the column, to the name of the column, hit clear, enter. Here's what you don't want to do. All right, let's say that you have a bunch of stuff in here. Here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to go to the top and hit this delete button, because watch what's going to happen to my L1. Now L1 is gone. So if I hit the delete button, it's going to delete that whole column. All right, then you're going to have a problem. So if that does happen to you, just go back to Stat, go over to Setup Editor, hit enter again, and then when you go back to Stat, it should be there. Yeah, see, now it's back in there. All right, so I'm going to hit clear, enter. All right, so now I'm going to type all of these numbers into L1. Nothing is going in L2 or L3 and L4, none of that. It's all going in L1. All right, so I'm going to type them in. If you want to pause the video so you can take your time plugging them in. I'm going by column, so I just put in all of the first column. Now I'm going to the second column. If you did like by row, that would be fine too. There's no right way to plug all this in. All right, 69, 70, 62, 63. You have to be very careful typing these in. If you type even one of them in wrong, it's going to make your answers wrong. So just take your time plugging these in. All right, now I'm in the fourth column over here. 73, 77, 60, 64, 68, 66, 62. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so there is 20 data points here, and I have 20 entries in this list. You can see it's L1 in parentheses 20. That means it's the 20th entry. So that checks out. You can run back through them and make sure that you've got everything. But I feel pretty confident. I think I got everything in there correctly. All right, so I'm going to now go back to Stat. So I'm going to hit the Stat button again. Now I'm going to go over to Calc. So I'm going to use this arrow button to go over to the right. And I'm going to select the first option, which says 1 var stats. All right, so all I've done is I went to Stat. I selected option number 1, which was edit. I went to L1. I typed in the data. Then I went back to Stat. I used the arrow to go over to Calc. And now I'm selecting option 1, which says 1 var, that means variable, stats, which means statistics. So 1 variable statistics. I only have 1 variable here. It's just the height. And the statistics, remember, that's the numerical descriptions of my sample. All right, so I'm going to hit enter to select that. This screen might look different depending on if you have like the TI-84 or the TI-84 Plus or the TI-83. All right, so this screen may look different for you, but mine says list and it says L1. That's correct. That's the list that I typed everything into. Frequency list should be blank. And then I go down to calculate. Then I hit enter. And there are my statistics. All right, so the mean, or X bar, is equal to 66.7. You can see that's up there at the top. See 66.7. Now, if you just scroll down, use the arrow to scroll down. I'm going to go all the way. All right, it says the median. There's no symbol for median, but the median is 65. Now, the one thing that it's not going to tell you is the mode. All right, so it's not going to tell you the mode. But here's what we can do. We can go in here. You can either look at all the data points and say, okay, 63 occurs once, twice, 3 times. Okay, so 63 has occurs 3 times, then 69. You could go individually, number by number, and see how many times they occur. I was just thinking this might be a quick way to do it. I'm going to say sort ascending, so that's going to go from smallest to largest. So I'm going to sort, then I'm going to tell it to sort L1. Do y'all see on the screen over here at the bottom left? Whoops, hit the wrong button. Over here on the bottom left, if I hit second 1, that's going to tell it to use the list 1. All right, so now when I go back, it should be sorted from smallest to largest. And that way we can kind of see how many times everything's occurring. All right, 60 occurred once, 62 twice, 1, 2, 3. 63 occurred 3 times, 1, 2, 3, 4. 64 occurred 4 times. Okay, so that's our top contender right now. 66 occurred twice, 68 once, 69 once, 70 once, 71 once, 72 once, 73 once. Oh, sorry, 73 occurred twice, and then 77 occurred once. All right, so definitely 64, right? 64 occurred twice. All right, so our mode would be 64, and we'll just point out that this is unimodal. It only has one mode. That was supposed to be a U. Not sure what happened there. That's a unimodal data set. All right, so what I just did to sort that was I went back to stat, and then I went to option, I want to say it was option 2. Okay, so I went to option 2, which said sort A. That means ascending. All right, then I pressed enter. Whoops, I'm gonna go back to my calculator. I pressed enter, and then I hit second, and then the 1 button, and that typed in L1. Right, so you can see it's over here, L1. Goodness gracious, I keep accidentally pressing stuff, sorry. I hit second, and then 1, and close the parenthesis, and then close the parentheses. And that's going to sort your L1 list from smallest to largest. And that just makes it a little bit easier to see where the mode is. That's not necessary. You don't have to do that. If you want to, you can just look at the data set and manually count up how many times each data point occurs. So that's just sort of a little extra step that you can do to help you find the mode. All right, let's switch back over to our PowerPoint from current slide. Okay. All right, so that is how you find the mean, median, and mode on your calculator. Again, the one variable stats is going to tell you the mean and the median, and then the mode we have to calculate by hand. All right, so next I wanted to talk briefly, this won't come back up again, I don't think, but I just wanted to talk briefly about finding a weighted mean because it's very applicable to you guys since you're in college right now. A weighted mean is a type of average where different categories contribute differently to the final result based on its assigned weight. So, for example, in your English class, maybe you have 3 papers that are worth 30% of your grade, and then you have discussion posts that are worth 20% of your grade. So those different categories, excuse me, are contributing differently to your final grade. So here's a scenario. Oh, sorry, I think I have the display switched. Okay, there we go. Here's the scenario. It says, suppose that a college algebra course has the following methods of evaluation. All right, so over here, we've got homework, exams, participation, and then final exam. All right, homework is worth 25% of your grade. Exams are worth 50% of your final grade. Participation is 5% of your final grade. and then the final exam is 20% of your final grade. It says, suppose that Erica is a student in the college algebra class described above. So basically the college algebra class with this methods of evaluation. And her average grades are as follows. On the exam, she's got an average of 76. On the homework, she's got an average of 95. On participation, she's got an 80. And then for the final exam, she made a 65. All right, so here's what you're going to do. You are going to take each one of these weights and convert it to its decimal form. So right now it's in its percent form. You need to go in here and say, okay, well, 25% is the same thing as 0.25. 50% is the same thing as 0.50. 5% is 0.05. 20% is 0.20. All right, then you're going to take the weight. All right, so you're going to take the weight and you're going to multiply that by her grade for that area. So for homework, she had a 95. For exams, she had an average grade of 76. So you're going to multiply the 0.5 by 76. For participation, she had an 80. So you're multiplying the 0.05 by 80. And then for the final exam, she made a 65. All right, and then once we get all these values, we're going to add those all together. All right, so let's pull up our calculator again. All right, so I'm going to clear this out over here. Clear out my history down there. Okay, so 0.25 times, whoops, I didn't get my 5 in there. 0.25 times 95 for her homework. That's going to give her 23.75 points. 23.75. All right, for the exams, let's see, she had 0.50 times 76 was her average for exams. All right, that's going to give her 38 points towards her final grade. For participation, she had an 80, so 0.05 times 80. That's going to give her 4 points towards her final grade. And then her final exam, 0.20 times 65. That's going to give her 13 points towards her final grade. All right, so now we're just going to add all these numbers up. All right, so 23.75 plus 38 plus 4 plus 13. All right, so Erica's course average was a 78.75 in college algebra. Whoops, sorry. All right, so all you had to do, very simple, is you take your different categories, take their weights, convert them over to their decimal form. All right, so take the category, take their weight, convert it to decimal form. Then multiply that by their score for that area, for that category. So for homework, that was a 95. For exams, that they were worth 50%, and her average was a 76. For participation, it was worth 5% or 0.05, and we multiplied that by 80. All right, and then that tells you how many points are going to contribute to the overall average. All right, so hopefully that's helpful and can help you in the future whenever you're trying to calculate your average in a class. All right, so let's talk about how do we know which measure of center to use. We've talked about that there's 3 measures of center. There's the mean, median, and the mode. How do we know when to use which one? All right, so for qualitative data, you're always going to use the mode. All right, so the mode is the value that occurs most frequently. So with categorical data or qualitative data, you're just going to, that's all you'll be able to do is use the frequency of how often do those values occur. For quantitative data, you're going to use the mean for data sets that have no extreme values. So if you don't have any crazy, what we call outliers, which are those really extreme values, something that's maybe a lot larger or a lot smaller than the other values in your data set, in that case, you can use the mean. If you have skewed data sets, so skewed left or skewed right, then you may want to consider using the median for your measure of center. All right, so when we're looking at a graph, and specifically we're talking about histograms here, the mode is going to be the value that occurs the most often. So on a histogram, that's going to be the highest bar or the peak of the histogram, right? So the mode is going to be that peak, or where does that peak occur, I should say. All right, the median on a histogram, we know the median is the middle value of our data set, but on the histogram, the median is going to be the point where half of the data lies to the left of that value and half of the data lies to the right. If you had like a uniform data set, let me try to draw this. So if you had a little histogram, let's make this really simple on ourselves, something that's uniform. All right, so all these bars are about the same height. So the median would be, okay, where's the halfway point? So it'd be about here. So that's about halfway. So you would say about 50% of your data lies to the left of that line, and then about 50% of the data lies to the right of that line. All right, so it's the point that divides the histogram into two equal parts. All right, we know that the mean is the arithmetic average of your data set. For a symmetrical distribution, the mean is going to be located in the center. All right, so for something like this, your mean is going to be right there, dead center. For a skewed distribution, the mean is going to be pulled towards the tail. All right, so pulled towards the tail. All right, and remember, our tail, if we're looking at let's say we're looking at a skewed right distribution. This is the tail. This would be the peak. All right, so for skewed distributions, the mean gets pulled towards the tail, so it's going to be sort of towards that right-hand side. And for a uniform distribution, the mean is going to be located approximately in the center. So just like the mode, or excuse me, just like the median that we saw here earlier, in a uniform distribution, it was dead center. The mean will be in the same spot for a uniform distribution. All right, so let's take a look at this graph. We've got, what I want you to imagine is happening here is that this is like a smooth curve that's been drawn on top of a histogram. All right, so I was trying to draw some straight lines there, but it didn't work out. All right, so just kind of imagine that there's like a histogram under here, and that this red line is like the smooth curve that's been drawn on top of this histogram. All right, so you've got some kind of histogram that looks approximately like this. Okay, so now I can erase this over here. There we go, that looks better. This is definitely skewed, right? But what direction? Is this skewed left or skewed right? What do you think? Peak is on the left, so this one is skewed right. All right, so here's the tail over here. So remember we said that the mean gets pulled towards the tail. All right, so we're going to say that it says determine which letter represents the mean, median, and the mode. Well, we know that the mean is getting pulled towards the tail, so we're going to assume that C is the mean. Remember that this is just a smooth curve that's been drawn over a histogram. The mode is at the peak of that histogram, so this would be the mode at A, and then the only one left over is the median. All right, so do it that way. Do the peak is the mode, the mean gets pulled towards the tail, and then the one that's left over is the median. All right, guys, that's everything for this video. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I'll see you in the next video.